The sun was waking up, stretching its warm golden fingers through the branches of the whispering woods. High up in a very old, very cozy oak tree, in a nest made of soft moss and twigs, a little squirrel was also waking up. She stretched her tiny arms and gave a big squeaky yawn. She was a very happy little squirrel, and this oak tree was her whole world. She knew every branch, every crack, every hiding spot for the juiciest acorns. But today a feeling was stirring inside her. A curious, wiggly feeling. Today she wanted to explore. After a breakfast of one delicious, crunchy acorn, the little squirrel decided it was time for a grand adventure. She told her mother with a determined chirp that she was going to explore the forest floor, just for a little while. Her mother chittered back warmly, reminding her to be careful and to not wander too far. The little squirrel promised she would be right back, and with a flick of her fluffy tail, she began her journey down, down, down the bumpy trunk of the oak tree. The forest floor was a whole new world. It was not like the high-up world of branches and leaves. Down here, everything was different. The grass was like a tall green carpet that tickled her whiskers. The earth smelled rich and damp, like rain and old leaves. And the flowers. They were like bright, colourful suns dotting the green world. The little squirrel was so excited. She hopped and skipped, chasing a bumbling beetle, sniffing a bright yellow flower and rolling in a patch of cool, soft moss. She hopped over one crooked root. She scurried under two drooping ferns. She ran around three giant grey mushrooms. She was having the most wonderful time. But then she stopped. She turned around to look back at her oak tree home. And her little squirrel heart gave a sudden thumpy jump. She could not see the oak tree anymore. All the trees looked the same. Tall, brown, and leafy. Her home was gone. The little squirrel felt a funny feeling in her tummy. It was a cold, wiggly feeling. She was lost. She tried to remember which way she had come. Was it past the big rock? Or around the prickly bush? Everything looked different when you were looking back. Her whiskers started to tremble. She let out a little worried squeak. She was all alone. Just as a tiny tear was about to roll down her furry cheek, a gentle rustling sound came from above. A wise old owl was perched on a branch, his big round eyes blinking slowly. He had seen many little squirrels in his time, and he knew the look of a lost one. He did not speak, for owls are quiet creatures, but he hooted a soft, low sound that seemed to say, "Do not worry." Then the owl did something strange. He lifted one of his feathers and pointed it, not at a path, but at the base of his tree. Curious, the little squirrel scurried over. There, nestled in the roots, was a smooth white stone. And on the stone, painted in dark berry juice, was a single, simple mark. It was the number 1. It was just one line, standing tall and proud. The little squirrel looked up at the owl, confused. The owl simply hooted again and swiveled his head, pointing his beak deeper into the woods. The message was clear. She had to follow. But follow what? There was only one stone. She decided to trust the wise owl. She hopped towards where he was pointing. She did not have to hop far before she saw it. Another stone, half hidden under a blanket of moss. This stone was different. It had 2 marks on it. One, and then another one right next to it. The number 2. The little squirrel's nose twitched. This was a clue! This was a trail. But a trail to where? She remembered her mother teaching her about numbers. 1 was for 1 acorn, 2 was for her 2 bright eyes. But she had never needed to use them for anything like this. She knew she had to keep going. She had to find the next stone. Can you help the little squirrel? Can you count with her? Let's say the number on the first stone together. Ready? 1. That's right. 1. Feeling a tiny spark of hope, the little squirrel hurried on, her eyes scanning the ground for another clue. But the forest was tricky. The path split into 2. One path led up a small, sunny hill. The other path led down into a dim, shady grove. Which way should she go? The little squirrel felt that cold, wiggly feeling in her tummy again. She didn't know. She sat down, her tail drooping. Maybe this was too hard. Just then, a busy noise caught her ear. A low, steady buzzing sound. She looked up and saw a plump, fuzzy bumblebee bouncing from flower to flower. The bee was buzzing loudly, and it seemed to be following the sunny path up the hill. It buzzed past one pink flower, then another pink flower, and then it stopped at a third. 1, 2, 3. The little squirrel's eyes grew wide. The bee wasn't just buzzing, it was buzzing in a pattern. Buzz, 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 buzz. It was like a little song. She remembered the stones. 1, then 2. So the next one should be 3. The bee was showing her the way. It was buzzing about the number 3. She quickly scurried up the sunny path, her little heart beating with new energy. And there, right where the bumblebee was hovering over the third flower, was another stone. This one had 3 marks on it. 1, 2, 3. The number 3. She had done it. She had found the third clue. Can we count the marks on the third stone? Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful counting. The little squirrel was so excited. She was following the trail. She was learning to count the clues. She chittered a happy thank you to the bumblebee, who buzzed happily in return before flying away. Now she had to find the next stone. The number 4 must be somewhere ahead. The path led her to a babbling brook. The water giggled and splashed as it tumbled over smooth, shiny pebbles. But the little squirrel stopped. The water was in her way. She was a good climber, but she was not a good swimmer. The water looked wide and deep. How would she get across? She looked left. She looked right. There was no bridge. There were no stepping stones. Her hope began to sink again. She sat by the water's edge, watching it bubble and flow. And then she saw them. 4 friendly green frogs were sitting on 4 lily pads on the other side of the brook. They were lined up in a perfect row. One frog gave a deep ribbit. Then the next frog gave a ribbit. Then the third, and then the fourth. Ribbit, 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 ribbit! One after the other. The little squirrel watched, fascinated. They were counting. They were ribbiting 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The number 4. The next clue must be on the other side of the water. But how could she get across? The first frog suddenly plopped into the water with a splash. Then the second frog did the same. Plop. Then the third. Plop. And the fourth. Plop. They began pushing something with their noses. It was a large, sturdy leaf, big enough for a little squirrel to sit on. They were bringing her a leaf boat. They had seen her problem and were coming to help. The little squirrel felt a warm, happy feeling inside. The forest was helping her. She carefully stepped onto the leaf boat, and the 4 frogs, with powerful kicks of their back legs, pushed her all the way across the babbling brook. She was safe and dry on the other side. She chittered a huge thank you to the 4 kind frogs, who simply blinked their big eyes and gave 4 more ribbits before swimming away. And there, right where the frogs had been sitting, was the next stone. This one had 4 marks on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The number 4. She was getting closer to home. She could feel it. Can you help the little squirrel count the marks on the 4th stone? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. You are such a good counter. The little squirrel was filled with courage now. She had counted to 4. She just had to find one more number. The number 5. That would be the last clue. She hurried along the path, which was now leading up a small slope. She was so busy looking at the ground for the 5th stone that she didn't see what was ahead until she almost bumped right into it. It was a great big fallen log. It was covered in soft moss and looked like a giant wall blocking the path. It was much too tall for a little squirrel to jump over and much too long to go around quickly. The little squirrel's shoulders slumped. This was the biggest challenge yet. She tried to scramble up the side, but the moss was slippery and she slid back down. She tried to find a hole to crawl through, but the log was solid. She started to feel that worried feeling again. She was so close. She had found 1, 2, 3, 4 clues. She couldn't stop now. She sat down to think. What did she know about the number 5? She thought hard. She had 5 tiny toes on each foot. She had 1 tail, 2 ears, 2 eyes that made 5 things on her head. She wiggled her 5 toes. She was 5 moons old. The number 5 was all around her. And that's when she heard it. A tiny scratching sound. Then another. And another. She looked up at the top of the log. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bright-eyed field mice peeked their heads over the top. They had heard her struggling and had come to see what was the matter. They squeaked encouragingly down at her. The little squirrel had an idea. She chittered up at them, asking if they could help. The 5 mice squeaked back in agreement. They scurried down the side of the log and gathered around a spot near the bottom. They started to nibble and scratch at the soft, rotten wood. They were making a little tunnel. The little squirrel joined them, using her sharp teeth to help. They nibbled and scratched together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 friends working as a team. Soon they had made a perfect little squirrel-sized tunnel right through the big log. The little squirrel scurried through to the other side. She turned and chittered a massive thank you to her 5 new mouse friends, who squeaked and waved their tiny paws goodbye. And then she saw it. Right on the other side of the log was the 5th and final stone. It had 5 beautiful marks on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The number 5. Can we count the last marks together? This is the big one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You did it. You counted all the way to 5. The little squirrel looked up from the 5th stone, and her heart leaped right into her throat. There, right in front of her, was her beautiful, familiar, cozy old oak tree. The counting trail had led her right home. She had been so close all along, but she needed the clues to show her the way. She scurried up the trunk as fast as her little legs could carry her, bursting into the soft moss nest. Her mother was there, and she wrapped her in a big, warm, furry hug. The little squirrel chittered excitedly, telling her all about the wise owl, the buzzing bee, the 4 helpful frogs, the 5 friendly mice, and most importantly, the magical counting stones that showed her the way. She wasn't just a little squirrel anymore. She was a little squirrel who could count to 5. She had been brave, she had persevered even when it was hard, and she had learned to accept help from new friends. She had used her new counting skill to solve a big problem and find her way home. That night, as the moon rose over the whispering woods, the little squirrel sat on her branch, full and happy. She looked out at the forest, which didn't seem scary anymore. It seemed full of friends and secrets and numbers waiting to be counted. She counted 1 moon shining in the sky. She counted 2 owls hooting in the distance. She counted 3 stars twinkling brightly. She felt 4 gentle breezes rustle her fur. And she gave 5 happy, sleepy yawns before curling up in her nest, safe and sound, and counting herself all the way to sleep. What shall we learn about in our next adventure? Will we learn about all the wonderful shapes hiding in the forest? Or maybe the magic of all the different colours? Join us next time on Wonderlearn to find out. Moral core, perseverance and courage in the face of a challenge, and the importance of accepting help from others.